Welcome back. In this section, we will be discussing mechanism of action of neuromuscular blockers. Before proceeding to mechanism of action, one must know what is the normal physiology at the neuromuscular junction, what's going on there, what are the steps that lead to a muscle contraction. Let's quickly revise those. The first step is acetylcholine release. The second step is receptor activation, the nicotinic receptor activation by acetylcholine. The third step is depolarization excitation. The depolarization leads to contraction. The third step is calcium release, and fifth step is excitation contraction coupling. The sixth step is acetylcholine degradation. This is the important step. Acetylcholine, which was released, must be degraded by acetylcholinesterases. So what's happening here? This is again the diagram of a neuromuscular junction, and you can see the acetylcholine is being released from presynaptic vesicle, and we can see the nicotinic receptor sites at which acetylcholine is being attached. So this is the normal physiology going on, and this is how the muscle will contract and then will relax. So something is going to happen here when we will introduce a neuromuscular blocker. Some will stop the acetylcholine to even release, some will stop the acetylcholine to bind. So these are the few events we will be getting to know, that how they will act on these sites. But here this is the normal physiology, and this is showing that how acetylcholine is released and binding to its receptor site. So let's discuss mechanism of action of the two categories which we discussed in our previous section, and those were, one was depolarizing category and the other one was non-depolarizing category. First, we will discuss non-depolarizing category, which was also known as competitive antagonist. Means there will be competitive antagonism between these type of neuromuscular blockers and acetylcholine for the receptor site. What they actually do, they compete with acetylcholine at nicotinic receptor on motor and fat and produce surmountable blockade. They will not allow acetylcholine to bind to the receptor site, but they themselves get attached to that site and will not allow the action potential, the depolarization, to take place. Prevent depolarization of the muscle, decreased muscle contraction. When there is no depolarization of the muscle, there will be no muscle contraction. This is how the non-depolarizing agents, the competitive antagonist, act on the neuromuscular junction and make the muscle relax, and stop the contraction of the muscle. This is the diagrammatic representation of the competitive antagonism. So what we are seeing here, there is a release site of acetylcholine. There are acetylcholine receptors. In the diagram below, you can see rocuronium, which is a member of competitive antagonist family. This is competing for the acetylcholine nicotinic receptor binding site with acetylcholine. It will not allow acetylcholine to bind to this site, but it itself bind to this site and will not allow the sodium channels to get open. There will be no depolarization, there will be no action potential, and there will be no contraction. In this way, they will make the muscle relax. So what's actually happening here, a competitive antagonism at the postsynaptic acetylcholine receptor is shown. The doses are interfering with mechanism of action. In small clinical doses, they act predominantly at the nicotinic receptor site to block acetylcholine, what it is meant to be. But at higher doses, what they actually do, they can even block pre-junctional sodium channels, thereby decreasing acetylcholine release. What they are actually doing when we increase the dose of the competitive antagonist family, the competitive antagonist drugs, what they are actually doing, they are blocking sodium channels and they will not even allow acetylcholine to release from its release site. When there will be no release of acetylcholine, there will be no binding of acetylcholine, and when there will be no acetylcholine binding, there will be no action potential, no depolarization, and no contraction. So the muscle will again get relaxed. Now we will discuss the mechanism of action of depolarizing drug, the second group, which is also known as non-competitive, acting as an agonist. So what's happening here? The neuromuscular effects of succinylcholine, which is a member of a depolarizing drug, a main member, so we will be discussing it, are similar to acetylcholine. They are structural analog of each other, except that succinylcholine produce effects for longer duration because it is not degraded as rapidly by two cholinesterases as acetylcholine does. So this was the main difference which I told you that we will discuss later on, that what's the difference between acetylcholine and succinylcholine. They have the same effect. It will allow the membrane to get depolarize. It will open the sodium channel. There will be an action potential, but what's the difference? Acetylcholine, does it work? It depolarizes. There is an action potential, there is an excitation, and there is contraction, but it gets degraded, and then when it gets degraded, there will be repolarization and muscle will relax. But in case of succinylcholine being attached there, what will happen? It will not be degraded by two cholinesterases. So what will happen? It will depolarize the membrane for longer period of time. This means there will be contraction of muscle for longer period of time, and this is the key point which will lead to our desired effects. Let's see how it will work. This is a diagrammatic representation of nicotinic acetylcholine receptor, an agonist which is depolarizing agent here. It will bind to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptor site. It will open up the sodium channels. There will be action potential, there will be depolarization, there will be contraction of the muscle as acetylcholine is doing. But difference is acetylcholine is doing it for shorter period of time and succinylcholine is doing it for longer period of time. Succinylcholine reacts with nicotinic receptors to open ion channels and causes the depolarization of the motor end plate and generalized disorganized contractions of the skeletal muscle. As we have already discussed, that succinylcholine is a structural analog of acetylcholine. So succinylcholine consists of two acetylcholine molecules that are linked by their acetyl group. Succinylcholine resembles two molecules of acetylcholine end to end. Because succinylcholine is not metabolized effectively at synapse, the motor end plate remains depolarized and is unresponsive to additional stimuli. The excess of everything is bad. There is a depolarization but followed by repolarization. When there is no repolarization occurring, then it will become exhausted, it will become unresponsive to additional stimuli. The excitation contraction coupling require end plate repolarization, and maintenance of muscle tension require repetitive firing, which is not happening in this case. So what will happen? There will be persistent depolarization, which will in turn lead to a period of gradual repolarization in which there will be sodium channel blockage and resistance to repolarization will occur. So this will in turn lead to flaccid paralysis. So these are the steps, these are the events going on when succinylcholine gets attached to receptor instead of acetylcholine. Before proceeding forward, let's quickly summarize the two groups. Let's compare them and see in certain conditions which group will be more suitable to use. The two groups are competitive one, which is the tubocurarine group, and the other one is depolarizing one, the succinylcholine group. There are few conditions which are given and we will see which group is more suitable to use in that certain condition. There are a few factors. The first factor is the effect of previous D-tubocurarine. In case of competitive antagonist, in case of competitive group, there will be an additive effect. But in case of depolarizing ones, there will be an antagonistic effect. The second factor is effect of previous decamethonium. So in case of competitive ones, there can be an antagonistic effect or there will be a no effect. But in case of depolarizing ones, as they have the same group, there will be additive effect. The third factor is effect of cholinesterase inhibitor. As you already know what is cholinesterase, this was an enzyme which was degrading acetylcholine. If we introduce cholinesterase inhibitor, this means that there will be an excess of acetylcholine. If there will be an excess of acetylcholine, it will be difficult for a competitive group to compete, and there are more chances of acetylcholine to get attached to nicotinic acetylcholine binding site. So in case of competitive one, it will reverse its effect, and in case of depolarizing one, there will be no antagonism. Effect on motor and plate. What is the effect on motor and plate? In case of competitive one, there is elevated threshold to acetylcholine and there is no depolarization. We have already discussed in the mechanism of action that competitive group is also known as non-depolarizing group. It will not allow to membrane potential to occur. There will be no action potential. There will be no depolarization of the membrane. But in case of depolarizing one, there is partial persisting depolarization. We have studied in mechanism of action. After persisting depolarization, there is a phase of repolarization and flaccid paralysis. What is the initial excitatory effect in case of competitive group? There is no initial excitatory effect, but in case of depolarizing group, there is transient fasciculations. What is the effect of potassium chloride or tetanus on block? In case of competitive one, there will be transient reversal, but in case of depolarizing, there will be no antagonism. What is the sequence of paralysis? First, the small muscles which are more active, more amount of movement is going on there, those will be affected first. Those are the muscles of the fingers, muscle of the orbit, facial muscle, then limb muscle will be affected, then the trunk muscles, then the neck muscles, then the intercostal muscles, and at the end, diaphragm. What is the recovery? Recovery will be in reverse. First the diaphragm, then the intercostal muscles, then the neck muscles, then the trunk muscles, limbs muscles, and then at the end, small muscles. With this slide, this is the end of mechanism of action. We are done with the mechanism of action of neuromuscular blockers. In next section, we will be studying pharmacological action of neuromuscular blockers along with their adverse effects.